Our next and our final panel for today looks at From Policy to Project, exploring legal and commercial entry points for investment in Nigeria's midstream and downstream petroleum value chain. We'll start again with an opening presentation, which will last for 10 minutes. And then the conversation proper will be for 30 minutes, and then 10 minutes for questions and answers. I know the day is fast spent, but please, we love to have conversation, healthy dialogue, and ensure that we're leaving here with a clearer picture so we're better at implementing and not just following the law. Remember, our theme for today and this year's edition is Beyond Compliance, Driving Regulatory Certainty and Investment Confidence in Nigeria's Petroleum Sector. To give a presentation on the third panel, From Policy to Project, exploring legal and commercial entry points for investment in Nigeria's midstream and downstream petroleum value chain. Please put your hands together for the senior partner, Primera Africa Legal, Boma Alabi, OON San. A warm round of applause, please. The applause is a bit weak. I know right after his lunch, but we did have a really satisfying and elongated tea break, so we'd like the applause to swell. And it promises to be a very interesting conversation, as this panel is all about investment. Please, can we have another round of applause, please? A resounding round of applause, please. Thank you.
I'm not speaking. You didn't clap enough. Now I will speak. So like she said, my name is Boma Alabi. My friends in London say I have a permanent alibi. She said ON, Officer of the Order of the Niger. She said SAN, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I say AKA, Owner of Nigeria, ON. Because we all are owners of Nigeria. That's why we're sitting in this room. We're all stakeholders. If Nigeria progresses, it's to our benefit. If it doesn't progress, it's to our, I say no more. So actually, I was supposed to be a panelist to begin with. I found out last night that I'm doing a presentation today. And so I'm coming from my place of experience. I can only share what I know, right? And my experience has been as a practitioner looking at the entry point for investors before they even get to this licensing conversation. And so that's where I'm going to be coming from in this short presentation. So I started my practice in England, spent 20 plus years working in London, and then returned to Nigeria to start afresh. So you can imagine that most of my clients were referred by my friends and colleagues from the other jurisdiction who literally know no other lawyer in Africa. Oh, Burma is in Africa. General Counsel, you're thinking of investing in Africa. We are looking at Africa. Africa, by the way, is a country. You're looking at Africa. Who do we know in Africa? Burma is in Africa. So there's a possible investment going to Namibia. Burma is in Africa. They're going to Botswana. Burma is in Africa. They're possibly coming to Nigeria. Burma is in Africa. So I have a view of these funds that are looking to come to Africa into this sector and how they first begin. And it starts in the boardroom. The information that is received in that boardroom decides whether they come to the licensing stage, right? And then engage with all these regulators and so on. And that's where I come in, because I'm a transactions advisor. And my colleagues, the general counsel in-house who's advising the investor, prospective investor, is also doing the same thing. So the first thing we do is profile the entire transaction from a risk management perspective. Entry, and then onwards to exit. Because remember, when I'm investing, I'm also looking to take my money out at some point. It's not going to be forever. And that's where we begin to look at some of the challenges. Because I've seen pots and pots of money that should come. And then it doesn't happen. And as an owner of Nigeria, it breaks my heart. And so that's what I'm going to share with you. What are those deal breakers that they look at and say, no, we're not coming? One of the biggest is dispute resolution. Commercial dispute resolution. I wish Charles was here, because he doesn't understand. I'm sure he does, I'm sorry, how important his ADR mechanisms are for investment decisions. Commercial courts, I have seen investors look at West Africa and decide, okay, even though we're going to be dealing with Nigeria, we're going to set up in Accra because of dispute resolution. So we have to deal with that in order to ensure that they get past the boardroom to begin to even engage about licensing for whatever it is they want to look at. And by the way, this is not negative. We're doing extremely well. We're moving in the absolute right direction. I mean, when I first came home, I was involved with I'm not going to reveal anything that's confidential. So this was in the papers at the time. If you were here, you would have seen me on TV when Gazprom came and Yar'Adua was our president, and we're trying to get them to, invest and so on after the meeting with Yar'Adua and Medvedev in Davos. So I was sitting in that room. I was very much a part of all of it. We've come a long way from there to where we are now. Because then there was the threat of we're going to change our laws, and therefore we can't even decide whether we're going to invest or not until we have certainty as to what laws are we investing under. That's happened. And in the past few years, Shell, for instance, they've just changed their country head. In the past couple of years or so, over 27 billion has been committed. USD. That wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. So positive things are happening. By the way, I was part of, in a small sense, the local content, because I'm from the Niger Delta. So you can imagine why that was of interest to me. And I know for certain that the act did not intend to restrict the ability of investors to divest, whether locally or internationally, and move on with their funds and whatever they've made out of it. But the narrow interpretation of how that has been drafted, and it's just one small clause somewhere there, is that you cannot divest to non-Nigerians. And that's a challenge. Because if you're going to narrow my ability to sell and move on when I want to exit, and I don't see the pool of possible investors, buyers who will take this on from me when I leave, I'm not about to bring my money into this jurisdiction. I'm going to go to Angola. And that's happening. So I'm also very obedient. I keep to time. They said 10 minutes, I've got 35 seconds, so I'll stop here. Thank you very much for listening.
You know, if you don't clap, she'll ask you to clap for her. So we might as well clap and clap well. Thank you very much. Very good way to start our third and final panel for day one. So we'll now like to invite the moderator for this panel. Please, let's continue to go beyond compliance to actually implement when it comes to the timekeeping. Please, a round of applause for the managing partner, Dion LP, Gideon Sado. A warm round of applause, please. Especially if you don't want them to take the mic and ask them to applaud, ask you to applaud them. Next, we have Oluwole Adama, Executive Director, Midstream and Downstream Gas Infrastructure for an NMDPRA, who's ably represented by Engineer Basaka. A warm round of applause, please. She needs no introduction, as she was the one to present the paper for this panel. So please clap again for Boma Alabi, OON, SAN, Senior Partner, Primera Africa Legal. Keep clapping till she gets to her seat. Thank you. Also joining this panel is the Vice President, Legal and Company Secretary, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. A warm round of applause for Ikechukwu Ekweme. And moderator, as you can see, we have 30 minutes on the clock for the conversation. And then right after that, we'll have 15 minutes for questions, and we'll wrap up in 5 minutes. So you still have the 1 hour, but I'm just explaining how we're distributing. Is it on? Okay.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, we want to thank the organizers for putting up this event. This is section 3, and we'll be addressing the topic policy to project, how basically we can look at legal entry and commercial entry point for investment in Nigeria's midstream and downstream petroleum value chain. Ideally, I would have asked for an entire day for this panel to discuss on this topic, because this panel is power-packed with experience and expertise. But however, we have to play to the rules of our hosts so they don't drive us out of this place. Without further ado, I would just quickly want to go to Engineer Basaka, the rep of the ED of the MDGIF. Engineer Basaka, the MDGIF basically has invested about 450 billion naira. Now, how do you think the MDGIF can actually cover these deficits? And what is the true value of the MDGIF? Is it the capital, or is it the signal it sends to investors to come and invest in Nigeria midstream and downstream sector?
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, I'm extending the apologies of the Executive Director, MDGIF, who had to attend to some other engagements. The mathematician in me tells me, and I can say 10 years. But our role is strictly catalytic. What do we actually do? We provide initial seed capital. That means that we've been able to reduce the financial burden associated with interest payments for early stage debt financing. We also provide guarantees, implying that our partners will be able to secure gas supply agreements, gas transportation agreements. Essentially, it's more bankable than previously thought about. Beyond guarantees, seed capital, we also provide technical support, especially during project implementation. We leverage on our relationship with the NMDPRA to have line of sight to licenses that could have otherwise been a problem that will impede the project, and we do much more. But in a nutshell, we're just catalytic. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Bazaka, for that explicit answer. Now, turn to Mr. John Chiboize. Mr. John, I've known you before in West Africa, and they did that without the help of MDGIF. And now, MDGIF has come to give local players money to invest. Do you see this as a competition for you? Or is it basically just removing some bottlenecks you've seen in the space?
MDF, thank you. MDGIF is a welcome development. Anybody who is playing in our sector knows it's capital intensive, knows that the funding of gas projects, midstream gas projects, is different from upstream funding. Any amount of de-risking you can get, whether MDGIF, BOI, or whoever, is very essential. So it does play as a plus to our industry. Of course, with everything in life, there's a pro. Everything my co-partners have said is very true. Industry is better off for it. It has helped to drive certain projects that may have sat on the project deck longer than they should have, for lack of initial capital. So yes, it's a good driver, but there's further requirement needs to be had. I don't know if the state of instruments surrounding further refinement will get closer to the promised land.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question will be to the lion in the room, Mr. Ikechukwu Ikweme. Renaissance acquired Shell shareholding in SPDC in March 2025, and that basically represents a significant ownership transition, upstream, downstream, and that basically has led to a JV now. What legal and structuring lessons would you pick from that transactions and you want to give to investors?
Renaissance experience, I would leave 3 points. One, for a transaction this size, it goes beyond legal documentation and regulatory approvals. You are looking at an ecosystem change where you will see that the enterprise itself is in transition, the staff in transition, the stakeholders in transition, regulators are in transition. What does that mean? The key focus, days after the ink dry up in the transaction documentation, you are looking at how do you safely receive this organization? How do you stabilize it? How do you consolidate and grow? And what it means is that the transition itself then starts engaging, post-closing, the underlying licenses, the governance issues, stakeholders, community, investors, regulators itself, just to ensure that it continues to work, function effectively, and deliver value. The other second point, structure. Early regulatory engagement is key. You don't see regulatory approval as an end game where I've done everything I'm doing, then because you are dealing with a complex transaction, you want a regulator who is working with you as a partner. And the engagement has to be constructive, has to be transparent, has to be early. That way you are able to go through the process. Otherwise, then you'd get into a costly delays if you wait to the end to start engaging. And then, to you that Nigeria is not short of the professionals, is not short of the capital that will deliver projects, and also not short of skills. And even the execution capacity is in there. It is then our overall.
And you spoke about how based on certain structural